Review, revise, and recommit. You are now almost at the end of the first quarter of 2021. We have completed just about 3 months into this new year, and I'm inviting you for an opportunity to review your progress, to revise some of your goals, and to recommit to what is going to move your business forward. Welcome to Coaching for Creatives. This is a weekly live Facebook broadcast that's done through the group Business of Creativity community. I am Aura McKay, and I'm the founder of Business of Creativity. And we're having this conversation today because a lot of us make big goals, set big dreams, do the work of maybe creating targets. And we do this often at the beginning of the year. We do this as a resolution, or we're going to plan our year going forward. And if we learned anything from 2020, it's that whatever we have planned isn't necessarily how the world or life is going to go. So I'm inviting you to take this opportunity now that we're almost at the end of the first quarter of 2021 to review your progress, to reflect back on what has happened so far, and to look at what's working, why it's working, and what you're going to do differently moving forward. And the reason why I'm inviting you to do that is there seems to be a pattern for many creatives, and I'd love to get your take on this in the comments section. Do you find that you're the kind of person who likes to do one thing, to try one thing, and if it doesn't necessarily work out, you move on to the next thing without kind of going back and doing the debrief? Or more likely, as a photographer, I love doing the photography, I love doing the shooting and the creating, and I even do like looking at the images afterwards and seeing which ones really resonate with me. But to go back into my archives and to look at, the last 10 years or 20 years worth of images, or even the last 5 years, and to try to pull images for an updated gallery, or to that idea of going back into the past to look at things and to review things has always been kind of like a sticky point. And there's a piece of me that kind of believes, well, what are we going to learn from the past? Because last year was such a gong show. I almost use a different word for that. But last year was such a gong show. So what can we learn from our past? Why do we even need to be reviewing and reflecting in the first place? So Flora, thank you. Yeah, you often feel like you forget the debrief. And it is such a good piece, because looking back and reflecting on what has worked and what hasn't worked can help you make better decisions going forward. And it also can bring you present to, wait a minute, I don't even really know how I'm measuring my success. So sometimes when we go to review and reflect on what's worked, we realize, oh, I set goals that were impossible, meaning they maybe had a moving target. Maybe the goals you set included words like more or better or different, instead of something you could actually see your progress against. Definitely building self-confidence, Flora, absolutely. When we start to look back, hey, what have I actually done? So one of the great things you can do, and I love doing, is just to give myself, 3 minutes with a pen and a paper and just start going, okay, well, what has happened in the last 90 days? Where have I improved? What have I let go of? Where are some things that actually worked out better than I thought? And to be able to reflect on what actually happened. Because often our sense of success or our feeling of confidence is fleeting, or it's based on something that was triggered in the moment and isn't actually based on the reality of our success and our progress over time. So yes, we want to do the debrief, not just to sort of build our confidence, but also to start identifying what actually works for us. What works for us when we're setting goals and targets? What are the kinds of actions that seem to generate results better than other actions. And it allows us to start building efficiencies with our time and energy. It allows us to create momentum and a feeling of success by continuing to double down on the stuff that is working, and maybe to revise or recommit to the stuff that hasn't been working. So Sue says the debrief is like having a little graduation ceremony to acknowledge past fails and mark it a new stage in your life. Absolutely, in some sense, and for sure, the idea of creating ceremony and celebration around it is something that I absolutely love and 100% endorse. When we can acknowledge ourselves for having done the work, when we can celebrate those milestones along the way, the progress markers, we will be more motivated to continue taking action. We had a conversation in the Business Accelerator Mastermind this morning about how sometimes you just really don't want to do some of those things that you need to do in your business. And if you can connect back to vision and you have an experience of yourself as someone who does get stuff done, it's going to be a whole lot easier to motivate yourself to go and do those kinds of things and to keep moving forward. So a celebration and acknowledgement of your progress to date is hugely valuable in shoring up that confidence and eliminating the imposter syndrome that comes from many creatives who maybe don't necessarily feel like an imposter in their self-expression and their creative talent, but may have some uncertainty around their ability to be successful in business. And how we change that is we acknowledge where we have been successful. The other piece of this, though, is the revise part, where it's important to look at and acknowledge what hasn't worked. It's important to look at and acknowledge what has not worked. So sometimes, you know, when we're at the beginning of a year at 2021, looking forward into our future, we think we know the actions we're going to need to take to get to our vision or our ideal goal or that sort of end outcome. But we don't know for sure. And life changes and opportunities come up. And so sometimes the actions we think were going to be the actions we were going to take, and those were really going to work and it was going to be great, they don't work out so well. And it's important to do the debrief on that and to really look at, well, why didn't it work? Well, what about it didn't work? And sometimes we don't have to throw out the entire concept. We can just make an adjustment. So let me get real with you guys here. So what I'm talking about is, let's say maybe at the beginning of 2021, you thought, oh, this is the year. I'm going to focus on LinkedIn for my social media marketing. This is the spot for me. I believe that my prospects and my ideal clients are there. I think that this is the social media platform for me. I'm going to spend the next 90 days just going for it on LinkedIn. That's your intention. That's what you set out at the beginning of Q1. You might even have had some action steps to do, like update your profile. Maybe you're going to take a course and learn some new skills. Maybe you were going to increase your frequency of just even being on the platform. There's a lot of different action steps that you might have set out for yourself. And then you get to the end of Q1 and you look back and you think, well, what did I actually do? Well, I updated my profile, but I wasn't on LinkedIn every day like I thought I was going to be. And I didn't do this piece, and I didn't do that piece, and I didn't do this piece. And if you left it just at that, there would still be some value. But the invitation for you is to go a little deeper and look at what stopped you from taking the actions that you thought were going to be valuable. And it might be, you know what? As I walked down that road, I realized that this was not the road for me to travel. And I got the information and feedback I needed by taking action. So sometimes we have to take action to get the information and realize that we're in the wrong spot. Often what happens, though, is that we identify a gap, a lack of a skill or a lack of a resource, a lack of structure, a lack of support, a lack of mindset. Often what happens by reviewing and reflecting is that we will identify what's missing for us to be successful. And it's only by setting the goal and the milestone, setting out the actions, and then trying to do those actions that we think are going to work, that we can learn that. And gang, the number one barrier to wealth is a lack of information. That's I think a Robert Kiyosaki quote. But the number one barrier to wealth is a lack of information. The more information you can give yourself about what works in your business and what doesn't work, and most importantly, why it worked or didn't work, the more you're going to be able to be successful. You're going to be able to focus your time and energy on the things that really matter. You're going to be able to create that momentum and sense of confidence and success. You're going to be able to fine tune the things that are working by doubling down and doing more of them. You're going to be able to revise the things that aren't working, and you'll be doing it every 90 days. If you use your quarters as a marker and an opportunity to review, revise, and recommit. So I want to give you some instructions on how to actually do that. I've kind of talked about it a little bit in this Coaching for Creatives so far, but the how of it is very simple. You simply take a pen and paper and you write it down. What worked for me in the last 90 days and why? What did not work for me in the last 90 days and why? What will I bring forward with me? What changes will I make? What am I committed to now? All right, gang, that's this week's Coaching for Creatives. I hope it has been some help for you. I always love hearing your comments, whatever your ahas and takeaways, any lessons that you learned or any questions that you have. I'm happy to answer them. Thank you so much for joining me live and on the replay. My name is Aura McKay. I am the founder of Business of Creativity, and I'll see you next week on Coaching for Creatives. Thanks so much. Have a great week.